Alright, hey everybody, it's Wayne Santos, editor over at Cgmagazine, and we are here with another edition of the Weekly Goods, the Grand Theft Auto 5 edition. First bit of news, actually this is probably fairly sad bit of news that we've got happening here. You may not recognize the name Hiroshi Yamauchi, but you might recognize his former title as president of Nintendo. Yeah, the former president of Nintendo died at the age of 85 on Thursday morning. He was the one who was responsible for taking Nintendo from a toy game company in 1983 and turning it into one of the monolithic video game empires that we have today. He actually presided in that position as president from 1949 to 2002, at which point he retired to an executive advisory role. The last piece of hardware that he personally oversaw was the GameCube. So it's like, yeah, Hiroshi Yamauchi, all right, respect. I mean, you brought video games to where they are today, so it is a sad time in the industry when, it's like somebody of that stature is no longer with us. So yeah, moment of silence. Next up, we've got a little bit of Sony news for you. The PlayStation 4 camera, or PSI, whatever they're going to be calling that, they've revealed a few more tidbits. This shouldn't come as a huge surprise to everybody. They've now officially confirmed that there's going to be face and voice recognition built into the camera. So one of the things that you could do, for example, is just walk in, sit down at your couch, and then it's like give a command to load up Knack or Watch Dogs, for example, and the PS4 is going to do this without you necessarily having to touch a controller. All of this was officially confirmed by Masayasu Ito, the president of Sony Computer Entertainment Japan. In other Sony news, they've also announced that they are hoping to sell 5 million PS4s by the end of March 2014. It's like, oh, okay, that's pretty ambitious, but it's like considering how many sellouts you're seeing at like online retailers like Amazon and such, maybe it's not that unrealistic, but it's like we'll have to see. There's obviously going to be a gigantic demand in the beginning, but time will tell whether that demand continues on. It's like post-launch. It's like still, it's $100 cheaper than its rival, the Xbox One, right now. So yeah, it's definitely not impossible. It's going to be a stiff fight. In other news, it's like, you remember the former chief executive officer of EA, the ever dapper John Riccitiello? It's like, well, okay, he's no longer the CEO of Electronic Arts, but he is now a major investor in a new company, which is also being run by a former CEO staffer, Will Wright. Will Wright, you may remember, is the guy who gave us The Sims. He's got a new company, which is called Sintertainment. That's spelled with a Y, not an I. And they've got this really interesting first project that they've got happening. They haven't given it a name, but what Will Wright says is that it's almost going to be like, instead of The Sims, it's going to be Sim Person. It's like the game that they have in mind is somehow going to intersect entertainment and reality, according to the press releases, and build the game around the actual life of the player. Not as in like a sim that the player creates, but the player, him or herself. So this all sounds really weird and off the wall, but if anybody can turn this into something interesting, it's going to be Will Wright, because it's like The Sims on the surface seemed like a really dumb idea, but that's gone off to sell like tens and tens of millions, and it's like one of the best-selling franchises of all time. So good luck for that, Will. Finally, in the this is kind of some uncertain news department, it's been officially confirmed by Sega that they are now the proud owners of Atlus. Atlus, in case you guys don't know, is a smaller publisher and developer. They put out enormously popular cult niche games like the Persona series and Persona's parent series, the Shin Megami Tensei series. It's like they're very dark, very hard traditional Japanese RPGs, which have a rabidly loyal fan base. And what ended up happening was Atlus got bought by a Japanese company called Index Holdings, but earlier this year, Index Holdings filed for the Japanese equivalent of bankruptcy. And now it looks like once they started auctioning off the properties, not unlike the same thing that happened with THQ, Sega, who actually also swooped in and picked up some THQ properties, just swooped in and picked up Atlus. I personally don't know whether this is a good or a bad thing, because Sega has done some really great things, like they've backed Creative Assembly, the Total War guys, and they've given them free reign and supported them, which is great. On the other hand, they put a lot of money into Aliens Colonial Marines, so like, it's like, as you can see, Sega can be kind of unpredictable in what they decide to back and what they decide not to back. So here's hoping that just because Persona is a smaller niche title, that doesn't mean that they're going to ignore it and say, no, you guys are going to work on big AAA mainstream titles now and forget that Persona stuff. I really, really hope that that doesn't happen. Last but not least, this is Grand Theft Auto Week. It's like everybody's playing GTA 5, except me. You can listen to my reasons in the podcast, but for now, GTA 5 is out there, and in its first 24 hours, it made over $800 million. In the United Kingdom, it actually set a new record for, it's like the fastest selling game at 1.5 million copies. The former record holder was Call of Duty Black Ops, which sold 1.4. So it looks like, at least in the UK, people would rather play American gangsters driving by and shooting rather than playing the American military who just runs around and shoots things. All right, that's it for the news. Let's look at what we've actually got coming out next week. I'm sure that many of you don't care because you're still going to be playing GTA 5 next week, but for those of you who still can actually work some extra gaming into your schedule, we've got a few other things. Giant Robot fans, Armored Core Verdict Day is going to be coming out. So it's been a while since we've had a decent mech game, and Armored Core usually manages to be at least passingly decent when it comes to that department. So okay, look forward to that. It's the soccer guys who are going to be arguing the most. It's going to be a face-off between Pro Evolution Soccer 2014 by Konami, and of course, FIFA 14 from Electronic Arts is going to be lumbering on the scene. So you fans can once again argue about which one is the technically better playing game, FIFA or PES. This is an argument that is never going to end. We've also got Scribblenauts Unmasked, a DC Comics adventure, which is coming out for the 3DS and the Wii U. It is Scribblenauts, but with officially licensed DC characters, so this means that you can actually write in words like Superman and Batman and get something out of it. So it's like, yeah, that can be cool. Last but not least, for you Vita guys who are always starving for yet another game to play, Valhalla Knights 3 is going to be coming out on the Vita. So for you guys that are looking for a more team-based competitive multiplayer where 7-on-7 fights with people, it's like Valhalla Knights 3 is right up your alley. Okay, that's it for the weekly goods. I'm Wayne Santos, and if you want to know more about the stories that I've just discussed here, you can get onto Cgmagonline.com. There's the web address right there under me. And that's it for the weekly goods. It was a week. There was some good stuff, except for the Nintendo guy. You should be sad about that. See you next week.